I'll be here tomorrow too.
Okay, it's 5:30. We have a quorum. So, meeting to order. Meeting was properly noticed.
What?
Okay. Adoption of the agenda. All those in favor of adopting the agenda? Approval of meeting minutes. I tried to find those today.
I'll move to approve.
Actually.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, owner comments.
Password.
Oh, it's the password. It's the original password in this building.
Gary's on here.
Yeah. Well, nobody's online.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, residents.
Well, I know, but I was like, you gotta ask me things.
Okay. All right, so let's get this thing started. Yeah, I guess the first thing we could, if there's an update, well, you just gave us update on Kennedy, so hopefully you'll be talking to 2 or 3 this week. Okay.
There's been several, I mean, just like anything else, there's a whole bunch that come through that just not quite.
Good.
I
Good.
don't want an accountant that works at Pizza Hut.
No, did you say degree required? You said required, okay, 4 year degree. People are still sending them without the degree.
Of course.
With the experience, so, you know, not that, or their resume is just like, wow, and then they fail the accounting test. Like fail.
They said that might be, they've been too far.
And that could be, they could be, if you're like a CFO or a CEO or whatever, maybe you're not in the weeds of the accounting anymore, but in here you have to be, so. You still gotta know how to debit something.
Did you think about contacting schools?
That wouldn't qualify for the experience.
No. Someone who's graduating or looking or going back for a placement with schools, you know, an alumni. They should have pretty good networks. There's alumni groups, they'll circulate through their alumni groups.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll check to the recruiter, like I said, the first.
They probably got a business school for alumni
Yeah.
students. Most colleges.
That's a good suggestion.
I sent it to my undergrad, I didn't hear anything back. I told them to post it there. Somebody about a location in the north, instead of south.
Well, yeah,
I know.
exactly. Maybe I should do that from Syracuse.
Have you posted on Disney? I said, live next to Disney World, live next to Disney World.
If it's the original, which I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
Unless I just typed it wrong.
Oh, I missed this.
We'll do that.
I need to know the explanation.
I did, I thought,
You just go on celebration guest.
I'll do a hotspot back. So I'll-
Might be this one. I tried that one. Anyway,
As the same thing. Okay. Oh, yeah, that worked.
good.
Okay, let's see if there's any. Exciting. Yeah.
So we discussed it.
They just haven't heard nothing.
All right, let's move on. Just keep us informed if you ever need our help or anything. All right, December financial review. I guess just an update of exactly where you are with. I have provided the auditors the final statements. And
Yep,
got the engagement letter.
yeah, I sent over the signed audit, the engagement letter for 2024. I touched base with them and said, you know, everything is done and set, everything's been republished with journal entries. And heard back that they're okay or not, but they have their own portal, they can get in the system and do everything on their own. So I don't need to like send it a Dropbox and send it stuff.
Okay.
But it took a little bit just to get the response that
So right now, we're looking at a $16,000 deficit for the whole year, which is much better than what we thought it would end up being. And I guess we'll just have to wait for the audit and see what they say. So we'll go from there. But I mean, it's interesting because of the income, especially with the late fees and all that, that really helped. Covenant fees and stuff, so you don't know how consistent that's gonna be year to year. But it worked out this year pretty well.
And Andrew, I wanted to just say thank you for notating the savings on expenses for the Parks and Rec and Lifestyles team. In last year's budget, we did work in Q4 diligently to try to keep those costs low since we knew we were looking at a deficit. So I appreciate you bringing that up in the board meeting and acknowledging that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we were getting into that third quarter, it looked like it was going to be a rough end to the year, but yeah, able to keep a cap on expenses for the most part across the board. So it turned out to be not so bad for an overall year. So yeah, thank you to Graham Manners on that.
Okay, any other questions on December at this point? If not, we'll move to January. I did send issues about the reconciliation of the funds, and I guess we haven't quite got that fixed yet or resolved. I guess Lauren was going to look at it, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Lauren is out yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's what
He said she was no piece. I'm just concerned because I just want to make sure that, especially at the end of 24, because again, there's inconsistencies with the expenses in capital versus the analysis of capital reserve. So there's just something you got to kind of clean up and make sure everything ties together.
How far off do you think it is?
For January,
Well, yeah, it's a spot in time, right? It's just a balance sheet I'm talking about.
well. Yeah, if I could, no, I can't remember, I guess.
I remember I remember once you wrote, I was trying to remember the order of magnitude was.
Yeah.
What you would calculate what the account was.
So. Sorry. January, the capital fund is off 50,000 and the replacement fund is off 22,000 in January. So, but that's taking the beginning balances for December. But December's didn't reconcile either. So. There's just an issue with something going on. I'm not exactly sure what it is.
So you're thinking you have something in your list that has been completed that perhaps we haven't been invoiced or paid completely for. So therefore, they're not on the financials.
Right, because if you look at the 24 financials, for example, and you go down to the capital numbers, and it shows 221,000 of expenses. But if to reconcile beginning balance, what was put into the fund and coming out, it shows over 350,000 or so, which is what I did at the board meeting. It's the total expenses in the capital fund. Because between Spring Park, the new truck, and Cleat, 221,000 just doesn't make sense.
Well, there's engineering costs in here, shade structures in here.
I wonder if it's collect. That might be our biggest one because those bills are coming through in like installments or smaller instead of the full approval.
So what if Jacob and I work together and create, kind of like what we attempted to do earlier in the year on the summary, is like projects and where we are with them. So, but we'll create it with the projects that have been approved, the approved amount, and then kind of like a tally of where we are, and what's left.
Yeah, and
A
then,
supplemental kind of report to go along with this to kind of help make sure that we are all on the same page.
yeah, and I'd be happy to sit down with you and walk through my analysis, because again, if you're looking at the beginning balance of the capital fund for the year and you go through everything and you get to the ending balance and you use this 200,000 of expense, it doesn't reconcile.
Yeah, that tracks, but there's still standing open items that were approved.
So
or
it's
expenses
outstanding
over-
items. and
Yeah,
then the outstanding. So you gotta identify what those outstanding items are.
Yes,
Does that make?
I think a supplemental report might make sense of what the projects are, what has been paid to date, and what's still outstanding. That way we have that on a
Right.
monthly
Right,
basis, so
that's
what's
right.
there.
Yeah,
hello, John.
okay, then
Yeah,
we'll,
Hello.
all right, yeah, and again, I'm willing to sit down and help you, but I can resend it, so you can,
Pretty good.
I'll resend December and January, so you can just look at
Do you keep a separate little ledger on each project?
I don't personally,
Okay.
um,
The system, you can pull it from the system though?
no, because they do it on they don't use this system for it, they use a different system. If they use this one, I could, but you use whatever they use.
And I think just using an
Okay,
example,
well,
right,
so-
the,
I don't, as a position, something else now.
Were they using Monday for this type of tracking
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, using an example, right, the pool house bathrooms, that was about a $300,000, and it looks like only 140,000's been pulled from replacement in January. So there's still 160 outstanding, but that project still needs to be completed, so, you know,
I just
something
think
set for that.
projects, I think this would just be a good idea, anyways, have some sort of, and like I think the easiest thing is gonna have to be a supplemental report because it'll marry this.
So, because we're
With
still
what the
talking.
project is.
Yeah, like Long Meadow Playground is one of those. It's the majority coming out of reserves, which is a very, like 11,000 out of capital. And I know we pulled 9,000 out of capital, and we only have like 2,000 remaining. And the next bill came in, was bigger, and they pulled it straight out of reserve. And I said, we need to make sure we finish off that capital 2,000
Gotcha.
and make sure that's notated. And there's probably gonna see,
As well,
yeah, we're gonna be seeing a split bill coming in soon with certain amount in capital and the rest out of reserve, and the rest of the project is all reserve.
Yeah, let's do that.
And all I'm trying to do, just to summarize, is take the financials and where you have the capital fund, you have the money coming in and the money going out. And trying to reconcile that to the balances of the actual balances of what's in the bank.
Makes sense.
And that's what we got.
It sounds like a very, it sounds like,
Like reconciling your checkbook.
it'll be a. Who does that? Well,
I never do that. My
I
wife-
lost mine. I lost, but.
You've proven out one time, that the outstanding and everything. You feel the need for a schedule then of some sort?
I just think in general would be a good idea,
Okay.
because it'll help me at the moment, but even the first future person knowing just what you said, there's 2,000 more that needs to come out of capital before we touch reserves, kind of like that kind of, just making sure that we're all on the
Yeah.
same page.
Especially when these projects involve both funds, and right now, we have a couple that are looking at involving both.
Crossover.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, there could be some things still in operating that should have hit the capital.
You may have to reclass them.
Yeah,
Just in general, I think that'll help with all of that piece,
Yes.
because I am a little bit at the mercy of how it gets coded, unless I just have it to. Sometimes I'll ask and you go, no, that's operating, I'm like, all right.
It's not,
And then sometimes I ask and you're like, no, that's what I'm like, okay.
yeah, and we can't go by just how,
I can't,
by understanding the vendors, because some vendors are paid by all three accounts or.
right,
Mhm.
okay,
okay,
that'd be good for
And
the.
just along those lines, so on the balance sheet, there's a bunch of due froms, like there's 212,000 due from operating for capital, and then you have due from capital improvement of 31,000. So is that more of just kind of an end of year cleanup you were doing, Jen, or is there something else that's going to be
No,
expected?
I'll operate out of money. So I couldn't physically transfer the funds. So the money have been able to transfer some in February, but I have not been able to transfer all of it yet. I don't want to wipe out operating. We talked about putting some of the region's money into operating, but I don't have the power to do that. That would help with that. I don't know where that landed, because I know there was gonna be more discussion on it.
Yeah, I guess on that, and we can table for later in this call, but if you were unable to pull 212 from operating, then we're currently earning 0.1% in the Truist account and 2.47 in Regions, which I think is about 300,000. So is that money that is needed to support the appropriate balance sheet entries?
Regions is missing on the January balance sheet. I don't see it. I mean, I use, well, there's actually, it's up atop, yeah, I see it. I see that. Okay. Your balance is 694 in CIT for operating.
For January, but I didn't do any transfers in January.
Okay, so we're okay now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, but that
During the
money-
payment cycle.
Also has to last for the quarter.
Yeah. But don't we get a lot of, 1-year pay? We've got somebody to pay full year.
I wouldn't-
don't they?
Not a lot though. Yes, but not enough.
I was thought it was pretty good.
Be more happy to run the report and
I
double
don't-
check.
Yeah, I was,
Each time I looked at
I was
it,
thought-
it wasn't a month. No.
okay. Wonderful.
But I didn't do any transfers in January, so you're still seeing the high due to funds in January. I did some in February. Maybe $150,000 so far, something like that. And then I'm just gonna kind of revisit towards the end and see if there's a bit
Okay.
more. And then in March, we should be able to do some more because in March, we'll have another influx of funds for people paying early for the next quarter.
Not to start a whole discussion, but weren't we gonna close Regions? Did we decide to do that, or where did we end up? I know it got tangled up in the wording.
I did, and I just made a note to circle back, see where we left off in that.
I was getting down.
Do you remember, Andrew, where we ended in that meeting?
Yeah, so I guess the question I have for Jen and Grand Manners is the whole reason Regions was open was because of a MasterCard account. And I don't see Regions having a MasterCard account, only Visas. So what is the true reason why we have Regions, I guess is the question.
Did you hear that question?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Sir, one thing. Why did we have Regions in the first place?
Way back when, you needed a place to deposit cash.
So it's just a convenient thing for our petty cash.
And then eventually they were able to open this MasterCard because MasterCard was needed for the couple of licenses we can't pay with Amex. And I
But
believe
yeah, I'm
they,
not, I guess
But
I'm questioning
originally it
that
was
because
for
I don't
cash.
I don't show Regions having a MasterCard. They only produce Visas.
maybe it's a Visa then, forgive me.
Visa.
It was something with, it was not an Amex.
All right, so then here's what I think we need to do before we close Regions is there's about $3,000 worth of points there. So if Grand Manners is currently using that Visa card at Regions, they need to use 3,000 of that. So then you could do a statement credit for that 3,000 to pay that bill off and zero out our rewards before closing any Region stuff.
You said take a plane trip. Never mind. Let's just get close. Let's get, yeah, figure it out.
He's in charge. I cannot.
Okay, do we need a credit card?
So I do believe that the credit card is still issued, but the last time we talked about this, Lauren had mentioned keep one open for the purpose of the credit card with a very minimal balance and then close the rest and transfer funds over. I thought that's what
I think
the
that's-
last.
And you know what, Jen,
Halfway.
let's have a pull up with Lauren, you and me. I think we know that the finance committee wants to move away from Regions and we'll figure out the details exactly what needs to happen.
Okay. January financials as we started. As I have sent an email about home sales. So we got 30,000 in as far as from the capital fee. So that went in effect beginning of January, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
January.
So- The Osceola County property records show 17 sales in January in celebration. A total of $14,995,000, which would mean we would be getting $74,975 into the capital fund. And the average sale price was $882,000, which is higher than our estimate that we're using. The difference of 74,975 minus 30,000 was about $45,000 difference. And so I don't know the timing,
It's always timing.
how this works.
Most of, I want to say when I look, I was trying to answer your question. Because I'm showing the prepaid is only 276,000. Prepaid,
Meaning the,
the prepaid assessments, so 276,000, when you're showing more than that. And then when I looked for the resales that were in the system for January, they were December's. They're like December 27th, 8th, 9th. or
I'm sure they trail for the.
unfortunately, because I was making sure that the capital was being calculated right. And when I first pulled it up, it was just all 1 year assessment. I'm like, what happened? And that's what it was.
It should be pretty tight, little stop holes and disbursements, that'd be hard to screw that up.
Yeah, but it just seems like there should be a better process for us to get the money. Because these are actually closing.
it's a PDF.
Plus-
We do get the. It's
Yeah.
just-
You get the closing, that's when the closing is, and then when it gets the function, it's your problem.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so,
You think it should be more current?
I mean, the closings according to Osseo County, January 2nd, 10, 13, 14, 17, 21, 22, 23, 24. I mean, all those should have
I can't,
cash.
you were saying, it says prepaid.
I would think.
This is deferred.
I can see all the
Yeah,
Back in the
I
time.
would agree with you, Jim, that if they're closing, then those funds should be moved by that title company. So if it's going, who's it going to that's making the determination of what amount is due? And then why aren't the title companies sending that money to Croa?
That's a good question. I mean, again, if the 30,000 were December closings, like you said, if they're the last week, because there were a lot of closings in the last week of December. That means closings in the first week of January, we didn't get any of the cash
Yeah,
Yet.
yet. Well, by January 31st.
I can tell you this, so we close it. Yeah, I can tell you, we used to chase this to foundation too, I'm sure they're still doing it. But every time we audited and looked at it, it always came out perfectly. But we did, because we were paranoid, we thought we weren't getting the right money or it was balanced, so we went in and did an audit, and it always came out right. I mean, the
Well,
banks and the title companies and everything are pretty reliable. I mean, the thing's got a balance, right? The closing sheet and everything else, so
Yeah.
we're gonna be a dispersal on there, so I gotta believe it's gonna happen.
It just fits timing. I'm pulling up February just to see what's in here.
Well, I would think, can you go back to January and make sure that we've received every January closing? Because we're now in 18th of February, so that should all be received by now.
I can,
Maybe it's sitting on someone's desk. It's just not in the system. Only seeing a couple of them so far.
I'll email you this. It's got every address. It took me a
Well, then
while.
Jennifer too, if you can look at, is this an issue of the title companies not paying or Grand Manor's getting
No.
into the accounts?
Okay, they're not gonna screw it up. They're not gonna screw it up, they're bonded.
It's timing.
It's just timing from the title company getting it over to us. Sometimes, you said it takes
24 hours.
that just
When they
means,
make distributions,
huh?
title companies do it within 24 hours.
They may be cutting a check and mailing it to us, who knows?
Exactly.
We may not be on electronic fund transfer, who knows? I mean,
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing, right? Are we not participating in an electronic transfer? Are they sending a paper check to us?
be something to find out. Who takes care of that inside?
We have a whole team for it, but, even if we set it up to be ACH with the title company, it's up to them what they want to do. They may not want to set it up that way. They may just send checks.
Yeah, we should find out what we're on.
Every title company that's out there.
Do they actually send physical checks? We don't have an ACH it?
I know that there are checks that come in, but again, this is way outside of what I normally mess with, so, but I'll ask the questions.
Equitable in town does probably 80% of them. And then I'm trying to think who the other one, is there another one in town? It's just Equitable, I think. Then somebody may have a preferred title company they want to use in a transaction, so there's some other tidbits, but you got all the Equitables, and probably get 90%.
Ask the questions.
Okay.
Okay, I'll send you this, just as an update there's only 6 closings so far in February. which would bring in $26,000, but the average price again is $882,000. Good news is, if you go to the Realtor sites, there are 26 pending sales. So hopefully they get closed sometime in the next 30 days or whatever, and that would bring in another $120,000. So we'll keep it going.
Something tied into this, we should update our resale number for the allocations. Because we're gonna pull different number this year based on the change in the method. So we were at one year annual dues, now we're at 0.5%.
So what I transfer over to capital is exactly what you bring in, regardless of what the budget says.
We have a budget,
Yeah.
yeah, so we need to put in the budget number.
I think you have to do that.
No, budget's the budget.
The budget is, what I'm physically doing.
Well, the
is-
budget's gonna be, $1
If you-
million short. I mean, the allocation, the budget for the allocation could be $1 million short. We can change
As to what goes into the cap.
It's a pass through, so it has no effect on the operating state, but we'll at least match up a little better. We can see what we're anticipating based on the formula now. Why would you keep an old formula in there? That's $1 million
Well,
short.
because it's not just that
It's
easy
not
to
a-
change it. Yeah, you gotta get the board to approve it. You gotta get notice out to the homeowners just to change the budget.
No, it's not a budget number, it's a pass through.
That's what I'm saying. It's a pass-through, so I don't need to change the budget number. You were saying that you need to change the budget.
I'd like to see
Yeah,
it match.
On this, she can only pass through what comes through the door in a given month. Whatever the actual number is,
I
that's what's in
understand.
there.
But we have an anticipation in the budget column of what we think should come through on an annual basis. And right now, that number on an annual basis is $455,000, which is 30 sales at $1,300 or 300 sales at $1,300. It's now gonna be 0.5% and it's gonna be $1,400,000, $1,500,000. Right, that number.
That's what I presented to the board.
I don't,
So, I mean, but I don't want to change the budget, because we've sent the budget out to everybody, and if we just change, but we can, listen, I'm tracking all this, and I will continue to track it unless people throw me off the finance committee.
So your budget is a pass-through, so basically it's a net zero. What I actually do is also pass through net zero, so it's not gonna affect either side.
I understand, it's a zero-sum game, I understand that,
Okay,
but
you just want to.
well, at the beginning of the year, why did we figure out what we thought it was gonna be based on 1 year annual dues and put a number in it?
Because we didn't know.
Because you didn't know if it's gonna.
That passed, so why don't we change that, so now we're updating this pass-through item?
I think
we can, well,
it is, because
Yeah,
what if worst case scenario, people stop buying houses?
That's ridiculous.
I guess, Mike, remember, this didn't get approved until November, so this was after the budget was already finalized.
I know, but this is not really a budget number, it's a pass-through account, so it's a zero-sum game. I'm not gonna die on the cross here, but
no,
I just looks odd.
That's good, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get you that it looks odd, but I think it's explainable.
Watch yourself. It's gonna look, we're gonna look goofy that we've got $1.5 million at the end of the year there. And we've got $425,000.
I don't think so.
I just think it was a car benefit. And it's a perfectly good explanation.
Yeah.
Used to be an auditor, right? If you saw
I,
two.
no, but I've been a CFO for many, many years, and once you set a budget, you keep that budget. Because the board has approved it, and you don't change the budget.
You reforecast, but not.
You reforecast, but yeah, we could
Okay,
reforecast.
let's reforecast.
Okay, we could do a reforecast now.
They like that.
Okay, I'll think about it. Okay, let's move on.
You're playing words.
Okay. Any other issues, questions on January?
Okay, so I answered Tina's question. Did you guys hear her question?
Uh,
What I thought she was asking me about was prepaid assessments, which is what you were saying about how many people pay
Right.
ahead. And I was like, I only got 276,000. She was showing 2.1, which is deferred assessment, which is basically the deferred for the rest of the year for the apartment rent fees. Because we bill them
Oh,
annually. And that just gets amortized after the year.
we do that up front annually?
We bill them annually. I don't know if we get front.
It's a debit something when you, I mean, have to assume you debit cash.
That's correct. Yes.
And you credit that liability.
Yeah, I mean, they mostly do. We have some. Challenging ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, the AR right now is 1.9. So I would believe that of that 1.9, a good portion of it is still. That's right. I can run a report right now, see where we are as of February 18th. Okay.
I was just working with Julia today on AR. Oh, you should, yes, there's. That was tricky with the changeover of owners.
Mhm.
That's made them want to pay the increased fees.
Yeah,
I have a question.
okay.
On the budget, on the financial thing, on the compensation package. The service area was 75% over budget. And the rec staff was 25. Is this moving people back and forth? Or? Yeah, the budget of service that budget of 9, it's spent 17.
9.
Was the budget for in January.
Oh,
Oh, that was the one.
yeah. So there was someone that was in the wrong category.
Yes.
Oh,
I forget who was in the wrong category.
So he's charged service and should have been charged somewhere else.
So it was charged to service and it should have been rec.
Okay, that's why rent was under.
yes.
And then maintenance is under, is that a staffing issue?
That's for short, yeah, for short on staffing.
Okay.
That was for short 3 positions on that.
Okay, any other questions on January?
On January,
Good month.
for repairs and maintenance, the maintenance playground was 10 grand, which pretty much exhausted our entire budget. Was that truly all operating or was there something else in that number?
Maintenance playground, 2 teeter totters, I think were ordered at 3.3 on each potentially. Other items were maintenance related. Yeah,
All right. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you can, should any of that been replacement or no, it truly is all operating issues?
Let's go. Maybe you'll go down the bottom.
and these turf rejuvenations are coming out of playground maintenance as well.
So yeah, that's just something that we really didn't budget for it too much, but if there are going to be continuing expenses, we might have to look at, is it truly replacement or are we just going to blow out the operating?
No, about 6.5. I mean, 6.5 of that was one items we shouldn't see. Yeah, the rockers.
And then you've got 4,000 for, it just says playground replacement part. Okay. East Village replacement part.
That would be it. Yeah.
It was
Is it?
Playtronic guitar insert.
Yep. That's right. We've been waiting on the factory to make that. So for about 7 months. Yep.
Okay, so that's what it was. And some rollers.
Yeah, so that's a wall and the slide each have items that have to be taken out and put in. So they are operational items that couldn't be that really shouldn't be reserve expenditures. They're just part of the operation of the playground.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think that number is not, going to stay that high. It shouldn't. Those types of costs come as they come, but we should not be seeing 10,000 monthly on playground expenses.
Oh yeah, definitely not, but just something that ballooned up that should be somewhere else, but if it's truly operating, that's fine.
Yeah, they're all.
Jumping over to IT networks, communication, phones and data were only $1,100, but budgeted for 6,300. Was there any missing invoice for that, or was there an expectation that would be lower?
I'll have to look and see on that one.
I can't tell you if something was specifically missing.
Yeah, that just seemed a little bit off. And then
Which line was that? Sorry, it was communications.
IT network.
Communication.
yeah, under IT, communication, phones and data.
Yeah, so there's a cost share for communications, phones and data. A lot of the software stuff's coming in, getting miscoded, so I can see that. February's over, so it could be the sum of in February should have been
All right, well, then, yeah, just do your proper reconciliation to see what's truly Crow and what's truly CJC.
Well, part of that is, so the big lift last year was to recognize what should be CROA versus CJC, but not necessarily the timing.
Was, yeah,
So
that's why,
as far as when some of those things hit or come in order, to- so I've got this whole thing where I'm trying to keep track of that. We know we paid music license in whatever month so that I can amortize that, that sort of thing. So if I don't have it, I can accrue it properly. So
that's what you're saying in February, right? We're seeing
I'm
some of
probably
these
saying-
larger, I thought we're asked the full year ones.
I think that's within February. So it's the timing of things of not necessarily. And I didn't manipulate the budget of any way for IT. It's just a divide by 12.
Well, yeah, then we'll see as it goes through the year how that adjusts, but something that seemed like, it looks like a savings, but I don't think it truly is a savings.
Year-to-date numbers would be more important, I think, than in between. As I'm trying to fit in pieces.
And then the next thing would be on bank charges. They were $5.91 in January. I know we have the $8 at Regions, but are these
So,
annual fees that we have to pay for credit cards?
no, so what we're doing in bank, or it's the credit card fees that are associated with Union Square. So some of the fees, so last year, before, what we were doing is if the $50 ticket was purchased minus the fee, it was only $47. You'd get $47 of the income. Instead, now you're getting $50 of the income and $3 to the fee.
Gotcha.
It's
So instead of doing it on a
being-
net
it's
basis, you're
being
doing it on a
totally
gross
current.
basis.
I'm sorry?
Instead of doing it on a net basis, you're showing the gross basis. That's all. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, moving on, I kind of went over the audits.
So just a question, you have everything now to the auditors they need for 2024.
Everything he needs.
Did you ask them for a date of completion?
I
What are you saying?
haven't gotten a response yet.
So you're waiting for a response.
But the letter of the day. I didn't even make it, but.
Well, no, they said in discussions, they sound like they're gonna get done in like
They
3
said
weeks.
it started right away.
Yeah.
Phone call is on.
What, 3 weeks, right, or something like that?
It's no way. That's possible. No, I mean, they all said if they can get it done by
Well, let's
April, May.
get the response from them.
I promise.
Let us know,
yeah.
Let us know. Keep the pressure.
If they want to meet with us, more than willing to meet with them.
Give any letter, any signature, maybe.
Okay, so the 23 audit is basically,
Done, entered, signed, and
okay.
Signs.
put away.
Okay, service area results, 2024 from 2023 journal entries. Jen, you sent that?
I sent a consolidated balance sheet for everyone's review.
Yes. I sent you back an email.
Thank you for that consolidated sheet.
That's so funny.
It's a real convenient print form.
You, of you specifically when I did that.
The spreadsheet you're talking about,
Huh?
the spreadsheet. you sent.
The service area thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I, like I said, Island Village has been wrong from the first day we looked at it, it's still wrong. Because they were not in the reserve study in 23. So now we're saying that only $80,000.
Well, the auditor was taking that from the fact that it was budgeted, not being actual reality of how many homes were in there. So they were like, well, the budget said it's supposed to be this, therefore,
Budget,
there you go.
budget for what?
For 2023.
Who did a budget for Island Village? Service area.
Before my time.
I think, what I was to understand was that one time it was pulled the numbers off of the numbers similar from Artisan Parks or Parkview Townhomes, just because it's similar home count.
Okay,
But that's not taking, that didn't take into account the fact that they did
They're brand
already
new.
have a reserve. Balance,
they're brand new.
a build out.
So the replacement fund that they have to fund is based upon now the new reserve study. Which again, the reserve study says these townhouses in here have to spend no more than $9,000 over the next 3 years.
Yes.
And then it's 150,000.
Yes,
And so their budget that they put together and the funding and the dues is all based upon that
It probably is now.
So in my reserve, so we just had a meeting with that committee, right? Explain reserve study and reserve expenditure tracking to them.
Yes.
And that was helpful for them. And then we discussed a request from them was to look at how do we go about a couple options of, if dues are to be increased to pay for this.
Right.
Are we increasing at a 20% rate and year after year for 10, for 5 years? Or is it a possibility to play around at a 10% rate for 10 years? I said, that's a great
Okay,
thing.
yeah, I don't want to get too detailed on just this, but I'm just saying.
That was the project.
The numbers are all like that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what.
I was told that 2023, it was budgeted for $88,000 to go to reserves in 2023, but it only brought in $150,000 worth of assessments. So.
So that's why there's a due from,
That's why there's a due from.
due to.
Somebody's even worse.
$48,000.
Not every townhome had been bought.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So the budget that year wasn't even a really good budget,
No.
right? Because of that reason, but that's what the auditor's following. That's what it said.
Okay.
That's what they made.
Which I'm not, like I said, nobody cares. I mean, I don't know why.
No, I think we're gonna care.
Well, we're gonna care for one thing.
Care
By the
on-
time that we come up with the 24 numbers, they better be accurate, because the service areas, I mean, I almost think we should sit down with every service area and just say, okay, how much do you think you really owe? Because if South Village owes $100,000,
South Village owes $101,000.
yeah, I mean, you think the people in that service committee are gonna agree with
They've
that?
got $720,000 in deposits in reserves, cash reserve. Well, no, that's replacement fund, right? That's cash reserves.
Yeah, no, because everything actual cash is scary.
No,
That's
just
just
look,
14.
look at the operating cash, and that's why they can't pay it.
Yeah, 14,000. But so they got a big reserve fund, which is probably required, but we're missing is one component. And that is a reserve study for each one of these, a current reserve study.
We have those, and you should have those.
We never.
No, we didn't get the reserve.
So we need to know,
We
we
didn't get the.
Consider right now.
need to know what the cash reserve number is for each one of these and how that compares to what they currently have in it. We know that relative to the budget, the auditor has shown them is short in those years when they get fully funded the budgeted amount. The assumption on the auditor is that somebody's following the reserve study
Right,
and putting that number in the budget, and then they're short paying. So they
right,
put that due from.
right.
But we gotta verify that, and we need to see the reserve study.
Which is why I think it would be important, as the 24 audits being done, to sit down with the auditors, especially, and go through what is real,
Yeah, but I
as
don't
opposed
think,
to what their numbers are coming up with for.
even if the auditor was to conclude that you're right, I don't think that they could make a change from what the budget says. I think when you do what you're talking about is figuring out that, do they really need to owe that money? Yes or no? Is to go back to the board and have a board do the motion to like waive this due from or a restart. I don't think the auditor can do that.
I'm very.
I don't think there's enough information yet for a board to make that determination.
None of this.
We don't-
We really need to look at it of what the cash reserve. I agree with this 100% that, yeah, those numbers look good, but are they accurate for where they should be? That's the first question. Then the second question would be, how are we off on the operating side that a lot of these are pretty much just making it by or not even making it by? So, if it's something where we take two or three service areas a month and start working through it prior to the budget to ensure that all the service areas are buttoned up, that may need to be the project for 2025.
South Village needs to be the priority.
Which means that,
The stage.
you would have to allow some of us to go to the reserve meetings and not be thrown out. Like you threw me out.
I never threw you out, but I guess we'll just have to get a finance badges for all you guys so you can go.
I was invited by the service committee for Island Village to come to their budget meeting, and I was told by Jacob, no, you can't be in here.
I know that when the budget was done for 2024, that they looked at the reserve to determine, do they need to put more money in it or less money in order to come up with the 2025 reserve allocations. What I don't know is if that was based off of the current reserve cash that they have, or what they or what the balance sheet reflects that they think they should have.
No, it was based off current,
Current
not,
cash.
it was based off current cash and current end of year contributions, not based off of just the study itself, because if you did that, oof, it's a much more optimistic world.
See, to me, those numbers just should be real. And what does the service area really owe?
Well, that's why
As opposed
you
to-
cannot, a service area should not be looking at their reserve study without their account balance sheet in front of their, of the last month in front of it.
Right,
Right.
right.
Without that, this makes, it does not line up and you can't work off of it.
Exactly.
A service area should not be in charge of setting the reserve amount relative to the reserve study or the accrual for that. Because it's like the fox in the hen house. And they're going to always short pay and say, no, don't need to put that much in.
Yes, but in order
Sorry.
to do that, plus pay the regular operating fees, they would have had to have an astronomical raise, and of course, nobody wanted that.
But we can, yeah, a quick review, I can show, the ones that are in trouble were the ones that went to a 19.98% increase. Because that, they were going that increase based on my recommendation, because their reserve cash is short to what their cash should be according to the study. And that their contribution should be, like Jennifer just stated, at a much higher percent. We can't, or the board can't raise dues higher than 20% without a community vote. So that's why they were recommended to be increased at that 19.98%. But that doesn't mean they're fine. They're often, some of them are still in not good standing.
My point is, someone's got to have oversight for this other than just the homeowners. Because they may not have the best fiduciary responsibility for it based on their out of pocket. So we have to decide somehow, is this group going to be overlooking the accounts for the reserve or these service areas? Are you going to do it?
I do,
But
but
who's, so this is your baby then? We're not gonna worry about it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess Jacob, would it be something where, does this fall on Grand Manners to do it and pass to both the finance committee and the board? Or is it something that this is an extension of the finance committee as part of CROA to oversee the service area piece as well?
so, I mean, I think-
No, I don't think the service areas have their own committees for this sort of thing. They don't?
they do, but as stated in the room, they're often, their committees are based on on self-interest for the,
Or not skilled,
Right.
and often,
all of the above.
it's about landscaping.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, the main driver in the conversation is dues and landscaping. So
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the main, reason. There should be more review than that, because
Well, I do recall Lauren said that for years, like, there really wasn't any focus on your service areas.
We never, as I've been on the finance committee since its inception, we never have looked at the service areas.
I was surprised to see them come in.
Well, the only reason it came up is we're dealing with those journal entries. It was like, what the hell are journal entries for? And we finally discovered that, well, it's the short pay that happened in the service areas for the,
My proposal would be that we leverage this committee when needed. And I know there are a couple, there are a couple service areas that that could use the assistance of this committee. Because they are not in a situation that they are in a difficult situation where if it's just me in the room recommending based on, fiduciary responsibility, it comes across as that is a management recommendation.
Right.
Where if they understand, that there's bigger, I don't think at full all the time, but I think we can start this conversation on moving end.
Yeah, and again, the reason I brought this up is I'm used to having financials that are accurate, right, before the audit is done. And that page of the service committees, I wish they would just take it out then, because it's not doing any good.
Because they do often choose and have the recommendation power to defer expenses as the main pro board would be for a project, a roofing project. It's mainly, their reserves are mainly for roof and paint projects. And those can have room to adjust by a year or two, which can play largely in their contributions.
Yeah.
Jacob, can you
Yes.
add this to a discussion item to the board of directors meeting next week?
What would you like the discussion to, what would you?
Why don't we call it a service
don't wanna
area,
open this up.
financials and reserves?
We need to do some work first, and I haven't opened this up with the board yet.
I would be in agreement of that. Right now, we're just opening up without any suggestions to move forward with.
They couldn't
Yeah, but we need to
understand
give- we need to
reserve
give
and
the
capital
finance
fund.
committee-
Yeah, you're explaining it
The
to
finance
them.
committee needs the power to look into it, because right now it's only you,
Yeah.
Jacob.
Gary,
Based on our work with the charter and bylaws update in 2019, 2020, I agree with both of you. Do your homework before you take it to the board, give them black and white. But here's my understanding. The association hired management to manage the properties, the budget, and the reserve study. You can find that somewhere in the bylaws and the charter, in the overarching, because it's, the reserves is part of the budget. Okay, so the finance committee is a new entity that we created back in 2020. By virtue of its general description to assist the board and management in preparation of the budget, therefore that's part of the reserve study, then I think you can have the finance committee assist in the preparation, oversight, and whatever you want to call it, of the reserve study being implemented properly. What do you think?
Yes.
no, I agree 100%, especially the complication, which I don't keep bringing up availability, and I apologize, but there's gonna be another 141 townhomes in phase 2. So are they gonna be included with phase 1 townhomes as a service area?
Yes.
Or are they gonna be, right, that's what they hear, they're gonna be the same one. So
They
you're
don't like
getting
that.
141 new townhomes, that's gonna take at least, they'll $8,000, $9,000 a year for the first 3. So and how fast they sell and everything else. And I just want to make sure the auditors understand when they're looking at these numbers, that you can't just pick a budget number out of the sky and put it in the numbers.
They didn't pick the number. The service area said, this is what I'm budgeting in reserve.
Not Island Village, because they had no say.
Okay, let's set that aside. You got some outside.
But that's not,
They didn't make up the budget. number.
that's not true. That's not true, because as
The
Gary
auditors made
said,
up a budget.
no,
number.
the auditors, I think you picked them up. It was not making up numbers.
They said in our,
Somebody came up with a number and put it in the document. Wasn't the auditors,
they said,
it wasn't us. It must be somebody from the service committee or it was management.
No, it's used off of their annual budgets. And maybe that,
the auditors said they used the reserve study.
The auditors looked at the difference between what they approved and what was budgeted. That's it. That's all they did. And then gave journal entry to reconcile it for sure. 100%.
Confirm all that, will you? Because it seems to me that I remember, they used the reserve study as, here's how much this service area is gonna have to pay.
Who did the auditors?
Yeah.
The auditors have never looked at a sort of a reserve study.
Okay,
I will be more than happy to.
Yeah, check that. And ask them where they got the Island Village.
Do you have the current status at the end of 24, the reserve amount that each one of these service areas should have?
that would be just, there should or have.
Should, I can see what you have. I have, I don't.
Yes, that's in their research studies. I'm sending you. It's one Excel sheet, all the tabs for all service
It
areas.
should have each service area.
Yes, as the expected year-end balance, yes.
You can compare it against what's in there.
And that's often my conversation, explaining that to the service area committees. This is your expected year-end balance. This is your actual balance. Here's the issue.
I'll bet none of them are.
Also, got yours.
Some
Let's bet.
of them are okay. I mean, John can speak on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Can I just
sorry.
ask a quick question? Do we have something like in our documentation or official documentation that stipulates some sort of rules for our association service areas that per the funding or per the reserve study, we must fund what's dictated by that? Because like I would assume either if it's not written, then there's It's not required. HOAs don't have to have funding at all, to be honest with you. So the first question is, do we have a document that stipulates what the rules are? And if not, I think the association members have to actually vote and approve it once we dictate what they are. So each service area would have to sign off. If we say, hey, you fully fund every year the reserve study balance, we get, I don't know what you want to call that, minimum balance. It's not the total amount projected, but the amount that's funded for each year and the projection of each year, we'd probably have to have something in writing in order to force it upon homeowners. I'm not against that. I mean, we did not increase budgets for this year for our reserve or our HOA fees because we were overfunded. But other areas, maybe like you guys were talking, we're underfunded, grossly underfunded and stuff like that. So the whole question comes back to, we can't even tell people what to do unless we first have a guiding principle. And then after that, we need them to vote and approve it if we want to enforce it.
Most of that vote and approval that you're referencing that is often expected would be in the service area is the approval of the CROA board. In some instances, that's why like when the service area budgets with due increases, going out on those budgets for 2025 came up, the approval was by the CROA board.
Right.
And we even had some committees, service area committees that were strongly against that because it was almost 20% increase. But
as long as it's stipulated, something about the service area reserve funding requirements are approved, budgeted by CROA, and the service areas have to adhere to that, then you guys are covered. But it should be stipulated what that is. It shouldn't be just say whatever they decide, because you obviously have to have a guiding principle. You can't just say $100,000 million this year, $2 next year. There's some baseline rule that should be in there that stipulates what CROA can and can't do, right? And nobody can question it because it's applied evenly and equitably, for lack of a better word, across our service areas.
Ask Larson, your legal people, to dig back 20 years to find that document. But I don't think it's well defined. It's the board, yes, submits it as part of the budget. It is approved by the board. There are service areas that don't have committees. They don't get a vote.
correct.
Now, the supplement for the, each service area, what you have to sign when you buy a house, and it's a 75% vote
Mhm.
to change any service area agreement. That's a high
Percentage.
bar to reach.
Yeah.
So that's why the board wants us doing it.
Yeah, I would say Crow and the board is covered because Jacob brought forth different service areas that had disputes on what the numbers were, and the Crow board provided the budget that was in agreement with management, not with the service areas. So that is something that is there, and I believe that power resides with the board.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be, I mean, you're gonna see these conversations coming more because I can't speak on the past fully, but especially when dealing with service areas, short-term solutions to make them happy are don't raise dues. So that creates long-term problems.
Absolutely.
And now I enter.
Right.
Finding long-term problems that were satisfied by people in positions before me that wanted to make people happy and not increase dues.
That's what I'm saying. I think some of these service areas are from previous
So how,
issues.
yes, they are. They're not current issues. They're previous issues, and that's why operating accounts have no funds in them. Because there's no buffer. And hurricane cleanup, a $6,000 service area can come out of nothing. So
Well, the problem
But
is
yeah, I will
it's all
say for,
inside the service areas. They don't have objectivity. They just go there, you're into the self-interest. And they're hoping that I'm gone before this problem comes from, it's gonna be repaired, or the HVAC is gonna happen. I'll be gone. They'll calculate, or I'll move before the big assessment comes in. I do think, somebody mentioned about legal. I do think we should have Slayton or somebody do some work around requirements for service areas. The laws have changed. There's been some updates. The accounting rules have changed. There's a new accounting rule there, and I think that's why the auditors are pushing this budget thing the way they are. If you're over 3 stories, I don't think we have that problem anyplace. That requires different studies and everything.
that does, and that brings you, I mean, they can't be a townhouse all of a sudden. They're in and you switch the company.
Yeah, so that's a different case. But I can assure you that because of all the problems that are developing in that area, the litigation that's gonna happen, if it comes up to all of a sudden you go for a special assessment because the roof has to be replaced on a whole bunch of townhomes or whatever it is, even though they're 2 stories. They're gonna sue the hell out of Grand Manners and say, you misled us. You didn't make us get enough money recorded here. You were negligent and you were hired to make sure we were right. Now we're getting the special assessment. And we're not paying it. You're gonna pay it. And they'll sue you for negligence. Because it's a litigation nightmare with condos in the state of Florida right now. and
Yeah.
everything.
And that's the big, I mean, just as you're probably, condos are 618, and a lot of those rules are changing in statute 618.
But we need to get updated. We should see what financial exposure we have, what kind of oversight we should be providing, you should be providing, because you're gonna be the person they're gonna turn to. Grand Manners on the deep pockets, they sue you on their end.
Townhomes fall under, 720, so it's difficult. Homeowners.
They'll be coming for you.
But yeah, Jacob, I mean, continue to do your work as far as how are these all sovereign entities, right? That we know they're behind, and yeah, we might have a 3-year plan to get them where they need to be, or maybe they do want to do a special assessment to get caught up, whatever it may be. But let's do the appropriate due diligence to make sure we know where they are at 0.0 now. How do we get them to where they should be?
Things brought out in this discussion, are there any action items I need to solidly take away from this discussion?
Actually, the board is responsible because the board implements the association.
Right.
And Grand Manners is just hired to do the business end of it. It's actually the board, each board by Florida statute, they have an identification,
Indemnification.
Yeah.
Both arms.
But still, the board is the ultimate.
Yeah.
Well, I can assure you when they sue, they will sue everybody with their name on it.
Well, I mean,
It's close proximity.
Sure, and that's why the surface area 2025 process improvement, that has been a large discussion, and we're working on finalizing now, brings a lot of the Florida Statute 720 HOA meeting governance processes to our service areas, which will provide us a lot more accountability documentation for any of those situations that do arise.
Yeah.
If the whole management's been saying they should raise that'll be much more readily available and supported by meeting minutes and recordings.
You said you sent that reserve study?
Yes.
To the Slope Ridge area? Okay.
Would you,
Send it to everybody.
I did.
do you want me to provide this to you? Do we need this monthly?
What?
This report that I just did, to service area balance sheet consolidated thing quarterly, is that reasonable? As a review? Just to see how they're doing?
It's really, I mean, I know all of these numbers. This is really hard to know because, I mean, you have to remember, some of these, as Jennifer mentioned, are 3 units and some are 113 units. So your balances
Yeah.
can look bad or good, but also if you have a roofing project coming up that's $1 million, if you see $1 million sitting there, you think they may be good, but they need $1.2 million, they could be in a very bad spot. You don't have, I'm just saying, this is not very helpful.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I liked it. I like seeing it. But now that
What was
as
next to do?
a report item, it won't be helpful to me.
This won't be?
I like it as a quick glance. It's nice for a quick glance. But if I'm needing to dig into work, I still have to pull up the reserve study and
That's still a big
baskets.
beginning balance, is it right?
He doesn't. Could you just,
I
On
I
the
like
cash
having a
reserve?
sense of just understanding upcoming expenses too, and.
Well, it's just that it's more, I mean, it's a balance sheet, it's just an added, that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's an at a glance. Not an glance.
can you go?
I mean, wouldn't it be
Yours.
just easy to,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt. Go ahead, finish your thoughts, sorry.
Put another line underneath there and take the stuff Jacob sends you that shows what the balance should be right now. And put that in there. Don't add it into the columns or anything, but just put it as a note.
Yeah.
So then highlight it.
So it's not part of the calculation.
Not part of the calculation, but then under each one, we can see what the balance is in the reserve and what the study says they should have at the end of the year.
That's annually though.
Yeah, what I would do,
If I put right at the end of, this is 2024, but if we were to do this for Q1 for 24, and I was to put, or 25, excuse me, at the end of 25, they should be, if I was looking at ours at Park, they should be at 175, and you look at this, you're 152, you're doing pretty good, like, it kind of is, right?
It
Yeah.
puts it in, that's the one piece of information that we don't have.
Okay, Chad?
I think you guys hit the point. All I was going to say, like a simple KPI spreadsheet with a couple of numbers. Number one, where should they be at this time of the year? If you straight line, extrapolate where they have to be. If they needed 100,000 more in their reserves this year over 12 months, do that. Where are they now? Where is the reserve? What's the difference? And then more importantly, also divided by the number of homeowned units. Like if I'm 20% underfunded, it's $300 and there's one unit. Okay, I know it's $300, but if there's $1 million and it's underfunded, but there's 500,000 units, everybody's underfunded by $2. So I think that would be just a recommendation, at least for it. So the thing you guys probably don't care about is who cares if like, hopefully of ours, Parkview Townhouse, we are fully funded and extra, but I'd be more keen on the ones who is not funded. And then really quick, because I must have lost this in the conversation, is the issue with the new townhouses at Island Village. Are you guys, the concern from a finance board, CROA finance board, is that they are underfunded because it's all brand new stuff and they're trying to figure out what they need to do? Like, do they pass it along in 5 years to the owners? Is that sort of what the issue is at this point? Because we know HOA fees are really low when brand new units come online and then they become exponentially higher, right? So wouldn't a policy write-up be probably ideal? And then the thing is, do you spread it out evenly over the, right? Who owns the liability? If I'm going to sell within 3 years, I'm going to do my very best, like Mike Jackson, you guys said, to make sure those fees are $9 a month. But if I'm going to be hanging on to this for 20 years and do 2 roof replacements, I want to make sure evenly I'm paying and my neighbors are paying a fair share as well, right? So wouldn't it make sense that probably, like, I don't know what you guys do, if Grand Manor does this or a little side project, that somebody basically investigates best procedure or approach to brand new, we're not going to have this often, but how we're going to handle the Island Village monster?
Say, yes, we're aware of this and working on this, and that is actually one of the, I'm gonna say, sideline special projects for the new finance manager that we've already pegged as something before we get to budget discussions this summer, of running through that analysis, like I started with saying, is it 20% for 5 years? Is it 8% for 10 years? Is based off of.
Yeah, Jacob, one comment.
Or
We all
fall.
know it's all about roofs and paints, right? We actually, you guys probably don't know this. We were in the hole 120,000. We couldn't get a roof and we had a roofer finance for us for 1 year in our committee. We're healthy now. But what you probably want to do is look at the projected cost of that roof at a minimum and the paint at a minimum, and make sure if it's a 10-year life, just simplify it and make sure you're funding 1/10 of that amount. Even if the reserve study shows that this year you only need to spend $3,000, next year $4,000 or $5,000, because it's all about the roof and the paint, right?
Yes, and that's that I'm fully aligned, and that's what I've been pushing for these service areas as well. I was like, we can't base on next year. We have a roof in 7 years, and we have to fund for that roof, not for next year.
And
Yeah.
one thing with new ones, structural warranty by the builder as well, that you have to take into consideration. Because
Yeah.
first 5-7 years, you may not have to pay anything. Because if there's a problem with the roof, they're gonna have to replace it. So that's gotta be taken into consideration.
And often, as you'll see in the reserve study, when we receive it, they're gonna review it, they're phased. Roofing and paint projects are phased based
Yep.
on the build out of the areas.
Yeah.
So Spring Lake has 113 units. They obviously all weren't built in 1 year. So paint projects and roof projects are a 3-year project, because they do it one, then one, then one. So when you start seeing those repetitive numbers, that's what they're for.
Hey, isn't Sienna a service area?
They're a condo association.
No.
Goodness.
I have any problems.
Right. Lots to say.
I just say that. Thank goodness they're not-
Okay, we, anything more to discuss on that? Or we can move on? Any other topics? Okay, let's go to reviewing T-bills.
I have reached out, our person at Truist is apparently out for what the current rates are right now to make a decision on the one that is maturing in 2 days. I've not heard back.
Hey,
I just emailed him again, while we're sitting here.
okay,
Which one is that?
220,
Where is it?
there's replacement fund. First one's 4.846%.
And then the cash for reserves is doing okay, so unless there's some massive projects coming in. Because I know before we were talking about maybe not renewing that one. Because the cash was low, so That's where I'll need to rely on this report that we're talking about, SAD report, to know,
Yeah.
for cash flow purposes, to know what we need for the reserves.
This says you got $1 million in cash, doesn't it, in operating?
Yes. Oh, that's operating.
Yeah.
We're gonna let
I was
that,
talking about reserves.
okay.
I can't technically move money from one fund to another without board approval.
Understood.
Does it make sense to just let that February 1 and 2 days mature and leave it at that?
That's what I
I
was
think we
saying.
ought to, we talked about that last time, and I think with 107 sitting there, we got it.
Yeah, I think that just is an easy decision there, if you guys are in agreement.
So you want me to move it over to CIT, so it's usable funds, because we've only got 98,000 currently to use? Or leave it in Truist, not, it's just not gonna earn anything, just leave it in Truist until we need it and then pull it.
I'd leave it there until, if you need to pull it, you can transfer immediately.
Well, I mean this facetiously, but CIT is 7 times a better rate than Truist, so probably just best to move it.
Oh, from just the savings account standpoint?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
and again, the cash flow, it's not worth the pennies we're gonna get on the interest for this, so I think CIT, put it in there so you have the cash flow and you're covered.
I was gonna say, leave the bill there and just redeem it early. Renew it, but then if we need to go get it, we'll go get it. I mean, turn that around in 3 or 4 days.
You just told me to do it.
Yeah.
You want that?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's renew it, and then if we need to,
We'll just go and
cash it out.
crack it early. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pick up a little extra interest.
Well,
because again, you're gonna be getting more dues than you got last year, because we raised the dues, remember?
Well, I need to pull the balance sheet because it's
But you're saying dues,
not dues.
Yeah, the dues.
I need to look
this
at
is replacement.
the due to, so.
No, it's kind of, talk about the operating.
I guess with this, right, if the board does approve the splash pad next week, you're probably gonna need 140,000 from replacement. Do you have that cash available?
Oh, no. We're gonna need that because I was looking to see what the due to reserve is only $10,000. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to move some of it. Now, I can move half of it and renew half of it. Is that within the scope of the board letting me do what you guys say?
Andrew, I don't remember the timing, that Joe presented at this point, but how quickly will they have to pay that money?
Deposit looking first week of March. Depending on
Okay,
terms, could be half.
So it might be just best just to
Max.
let it mature and pull it over in CIT.
Mhm. Yeah, depending on the contract terms, it could be upwards of 50/50, 50 front, 50 to end, which would be
Okay.
260,000.
all right, all right.
Sure, info.
Okay. Update on the Gallagher project.
Gallagher, I know is $808,000 under budget. The punch list is done. We're only cleaning the data based on and working through administrative training. There's some little hiccups on it. The committee is still working on the possibility to use digital IDs and updating key cards to a more secure version that is harder to duplicate.
Okay, so are people allowed to use their phones to get into this fitness center as an example at this point?
They're still reviewing that possibility as in the original cell that was included. And as you're probably, sounds like you're aware,
Yes.
a recent discovery was that is a subscription-based program that costs tens of thousands of dollars a year.
They didn't know that when they signed up for the project?
They're looking into that deeper because
Yeah, I guess on that, right, the question was out to Dom of, it was, I guess, sold to the community as a one-time upfront charge that you get so many license. But recently, it sounds like there's some chirping that there's an annual fee tied to it, which I think is straight BS, but who knows what was decided prior to me being on the board. Jacob, if you can follow up with Dom and try to hash that out as far as exactly where we're at, because I think he's had that for now 2 months. So we definitely need to get an answer on that, because if we need to pay an annual fee, then how does that tie into when you renew your card? Or if it's a one-time fee, is that something that is built into the budget as far as an expense? That all has to get figured out. But on the side with Gallagher, yeah, we need to understand what are the true costs before we figure out what the association would be responsible for.
Is anyone at Grand Manors still have a relationship with your old IT guy who signed on to this?
Yes, we have used we've called in a lot of favors already.
I was just asking the simple question. Did you know that we're gonna have to pay an extra fee? Because when he presented it, at least to me, there was no additional fee. I was gonna be able to use my phone to get in fitness without a cost.
Should the tech committee know that answer?
Yeah, they should sell.
The former chair of the tech committee
Yes,
should be asked questions. I forget his name, but
yes.
he sponsored this. Jim Hayes was involved, the staff went to the board, but those two were the pilots. And this project was birthed and nurtured through the tech committee.
Right.
It was not sourced by Grand Manors. And Grand Manors stood off them and said, they're doing it, it's not ours. So they did the RFP, they did it, took the responsibility. So we had the fox in the hen house again with the tech committee doing this thing. And it sounds like now we have bad diligence, at least in a partial of it. And we're now at least,
So we can still apply.
well, I don't, but I'm saying we're now probably 4, 5, 6 months beyond what the promised delivery was on it too.
On the phone system or the,
Gallagher being completed at all locations.
that's right.
I mean, it's gone astray. I mean, it's just, I'm the one that put that on there and asked for it again because I just continue to marvel at it.
So I do know that the phone system exists and works. We have like 10 licenses as a temporary for trial database.
Okay.
I have the license and it works. So I know in the sense of if it's, where that conversation lies is just about that documentation on how, if there is fees, how do we pass on the fees? If there's not, those conversations are still need to happen. As far as if a decision is made and what type of further software development needs to happen, that should move much better. Once we
And I'm
From
along
a
those-
software development standpoint, it's pretty much done. It's more of just getting the Grand Manors associates trained and functional. I've used it and it does work. I know some others that had some issues here or there, so there's still a couple bugs to be worked through. But then there was additional computers and things for Artisan Park and stuff of that nature that were put into place, so it does work. So, Jacob, can you give me a copy of what the contract was with Gallagher? You know, just to see if there is something in there that was missed, or if it is silent. Because if it's silent, then Crow are going to have to go back to the board with Gallagher to try to settle on specific terms. Versus, no, the term is in the original contract. You need to abide by it.
Pulse might know too.
Yeah, Tom was around dealing with that. He was on the committee.
They were in
Also, yeah.
inside that.
They, when they brought it to the board, when it peeked its head out from underneath, it was like $240,000, 230, whatever it was, right up against the $250,000 threshold to present it to the community. And I called that out at the point in time, and everybody said, no, it's underneath. And I had a sneaking suspicion that it was manipulated to put it just underneath the threshold. That may be my paranoia, but I still have that opinion. Then it was stated that there's a maintenance contract on it. I can't quote the number on that, but that maintenance contract, I think, pushed it over in my mind to 250. When I called that out, people said, oh, no, that's not part of the contract. That's a maintenance contract and that's paid over time, so that doesn't count. So about everything, you remember that, huh?
I do.
So about everything that you could do to mask this thing inside that committee, was being done. And I gotta tell you, it made me feel real squirmy at the time. And that's why I continue to haunt people with it, because it's just, I think it's bad process.
Okay, so we'll get some updates on that. I'll talk to Bill as well. 851 insurance claim update. Any?
I know that just last week, Lauren did the deposition. Just continue, they're just still in questioning.
Okay. So nothing.
There's nothing, yeah, there's no
Investigation, I want to reach some kind of conclusion. Is this like a year process, 6 months, or more depositions, or what's going on?
more depositions.
Okay.
Will probably be an all-year process this year.
They're very, as before, so the insurance companies strongly objected.
Yeah, I think we're on pretty wobbly legs, but like hiring an ambulance chaser. They get a cut, they get it, they get a cut, and we get a cut. So yes, it's halfway decent effort.
I know the conversations were going well from our end. They are dissatisfied with the amount of available information.
The insurance company.
Yes.
We shared the clinic studies with them or things like that.
She wants much older information.
Oh, they want older information.
Yeah, nothing current. They
Time
want
of
the.
day.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's we didn't provide
Yeah, I'm
notification.
not gonna hold my breath on the insurance claim, but continue down that path and
Correct.
yeah,
But
the
that was-
insurance
this is a
company's
private
gonna
company.
want something around that date of loss. And if there's nothing around the date of loss, then they're gonna try to deny it and say that no, it was all after the fact. So we'll see where it goes, but I don't think it's costing Crow anything by going down this path as far as just sharing information and hopefully getting some type of settlement down the line.
I'm in depositions.
Okay. 2025 reserve. Is that on here?
Just one of them standing items.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want me to remove it as a standing item?
No, I'll just update, just so everybody knows, the biggest issue is gonna be the replacement fund. We told the board that we're taking out, 851 out of the reserve study because we're paying a lot of capital. So that brings the 25 reserve study about 1.6 million. And we have in our budget at this point about 1.2. So we have to be a little bit monitoring and judicious on the spending. We think there are some possibilities as far as some fields and resodding, and coming up with more drains and irrigation repairs that we've been told. Exquisite is doing a lot of those at this point as part of their contract. So there's like $80,000 for irrigation, and things like that. So we'll just monitor as the year goes on and see where we're at. And again, if we have to move something out of capital to replacement, we'll face that one.
What does that 851 report do, the cost?
So you trying to get the total numbers.
Yeah.
So they are in current,
It's a car.
yeah, they're currently finalizing the schematical plans. Once they're finalized, they go into the building plans. Once they have the building plans done, that's when we'll get a cost. They're moving fast since January 1 and the approval that the board did on the scope expansion. They're moving fast.
Okay, moving on to capital projects. The bathrooms are going on. Like I said, we've got 851. We estimate at this point about 3.5 million. The splash pad is got a budget of 600,000. And the approved vendor is going to come in at less than that, although there's some infrastructure that has to occur. We've paid, I think, some of the sunshade structures.
We still owe the final, the half for the two that are not built yet.
Okay, so 72.
2 of the 4 have been paid and completed.
Correct. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
They're both, permits were finalized on both of those and they're in production. One is almost at the end of manufacturing and starting shipment.
Okay, so some of those were paid last year, right?
Yes,
And so they should have been.
final or initial deposits on all 4 stage structures were paid last year. The 2 pool structures that were completed last year were. Yes, they did. With those in
Yeah,
this conversation.
because this one,
But we did finalize the payment on those. So I went back and forth on if we were
Okay.
going to.
which again says only having 200,000 of expense in account last year doesn't make any sense. Okay, moving on. That's pretty much it. If we do that and we get our estimated 390 home sales at an average price of 800,000, we could still end up the year with about 8 million in cash. So we'll see.
With additional conversations about pool heaters. Potentially, in impact.
Well, we've got a lot of things on impact.
There will probably be a business certification floating to the board for.
There's also about veterans who want to add the Space Force at Founders Park.
Yeah,
They've been asking for quite a while.
yeah, but both of the, well, yeah, are.
I met with
the
them.
large project.
I've got.
I saw the communications. It's like the day you met with them.
Yes. So,
You said another vehicle?
Mhm.
What, another truck?
Mhm.
To replace one?
No,
Incremental?
yes. Island Village
Did we put a car in for Island Village or something?
for community standards. Maintenance is the issue now. We've been stringing this along. That was in the original justification for the car last year of the need for 2, but we are holding on 1.
if you get a truck for Island Village, Parks and Rec better come down more often.
You're a real gentleman.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's in the fitness center watching all these kids come in wearing frocks and.
There's often 1 full monitor on, on site. And they're also doing setups and room teardowns, which is why we're trying to work on making sure that the plans in 851 require setup.
Yes.
But right now, using only the rooms we have, the amount of labor time in flipping rooms from setting up
Right.
to a board meeting, clearing them out for jujitsu, setting them up, that is also taking your pole and park monitors out. from
Yeah.
the pool.
No, I understand. Okay, any other comments?
Andrew had this, is he still up there?
Oh,
Oh, he's trying to get in,
Okay,
somehow he left.
he had this, island.
Welcome back.
yes.
Should we talk about that?
He sent it to you and me, right?
Please, send David.
I do the same.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Andrew, do you mind if we share your presentation with the rest of the finance committee, your revised one?
If you're the meeting organizer, press star now.
Oh, I can't hear it. I can probably, let me see if I can type in chat.
Andrew, can you hear?
Joining the meeting.
There you go.
Andrew?
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
Hey, Andrew, I think you have 2 speakers working.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened to my internet, went down. Apologize.
Okay. Do you mind if I share the revised version of your presentation that you're going to do for the annual meeting to the rest of the finance committee?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'll get it to you so you can take a look at it. And if they have any comments, they can comment back to you directly.
Yeah, we have some comments. I think, and Lauren will probably talk to you, but typically at the annual meeting, there's not much time. So a 3-page presentation is probably going to be a little much. I think you said maybe you would just share it with the board or however, but you might want to try to narrow this down to a single page or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna circle up with Lauren and maybe I just do it at the board of directors meeting next week rather than the annual review. So just something of wrapping up 2024 of how the numbers looked and where things are and throw it in the board packet. So if anyone wants to look at it, they can see it.
I think that accomplishment challenge page, we could use that in the board, in the annual meeting. Get up and read. I think that would work just as, right? That's pretty typical of what's done there.
Yeah.
Anything else that's too complicated, it's kind of a fun meeting, so it gets a little too serious.
Gotcha. All right, then yeah, if you want to share that with the group, and then if you're good with the accomplishments and challenges, then I think that's what you guys put forth for the finance committee.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess one last thing for you guys. This is probably my last liaison for the finance committee, so wanted to say a heartfelt thank you for all the work you guys done this past year. We've been able to get the resale fee through, which I think improved the solvency of our community as a whole. Got the 2023 audit finished. I know it was better late than never, but hopefully moving forward, that'll be a much smoother process. And again, that was a lot of work that the committee did. So just my appreciation for all the work you guys have done this year, and a true thank you.
Well, thank you for being candid about your thoughts all year, and we appreciate that. So
So do we set the next meeting or do we do?
Or about March 18th.
Recommendable.
they have to think back.
It's recommendable based on the board structure, not on the finance structure.
So the 18th works good. March 18th.
Oh, I forgot. I love the fact that I have the same dates as this month. It's so helpful.
Yes.
Will you
All right.
Well, I
send
book,
whatever?
well, I do it. Yes, I can do that for you.
Thank you. So there's a couple changes. There's a reclass of the full thing. I'll fix the compensation. Otherwise, you guys approve the financials. I can send them out. But moving forward, I have to have your official approvals.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The board hasn't seen them yet.
No, yeah.
Just.
Yes.
Correct.
No, you gotta prove that we got to approve it first.
I'll be doing this as a formality. Perfect.
So yeah, make your request,
I
send it right out to us, and then everybody respond through email, and that'll be good.
Perfect. That's
Is there a deadline on that? Is there a deadline date that has to be?
They have to be out by they have to be out by the 20th. So,
That's what I wanted to mention because of that new.
but it'll be tomorrow morning. I'll make the live changes that I need to make, which I think I just need to double
Yeah.
check. And then I can regenerate it, send it out because tomorrow, if you can just let me know by 20th.
That'd be fair. So yes, as he just nicely mentioned, for this committee, please on that email, please, it is time sensitive based on the board metrics. It doesn't, yeah, it's just important. If you can get those faster.
You got it quick. Yep. Okay, somebody want to make the motion to adjourn? All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I think. Yeah,